on the cloud. Okay, people, so back to our presentation. Last slide from previous presentation, which gives us some guidelines how the research problem should be. So once again, research problem should be stated clearly and completely. What this means. In your document, you have to say the purpose of this research is what, and when you are stating it, you have to use sentence, maybe 2 sentences, but these should be complete sentences. So you have to have a proper, concise description of your research problem. Now, when you are writing your research problem, you should definitely think about feasibility of your project. When we say feasibility, we mean you have to think about economical feasibility. You have to think about your expertise. Can you actually conduct that experiment? You should think about availability of the instrumentation, like is there a instrument or is there a proper method for doing your measurements or data collection. Also, if you are going to deal with a large data, because some students do research on data which is already available, we call it also historical data. So if it is data, then you should know, is that data available to you? Because very often when we do research for industries, let's say we are looking at oil and water composition we had to do research like that last year, oil and water composition for a water treatment facility from one industry. They didn't give us the data because they felt that the data is very confidential, and even though they want us to do research, but we did not get access to the data, which means in that case, our research becomes not feasible. So we had to change the research focus. We had to do something else because at that point we couldn't continue with the research, even though at the beginning we were told that we will get the data. So make sure that what you are stating is feasible, and that is not only financial feasibility, it's all the other things. Knowledge, your skills, your instrumentation, the money available, also time. Maybe you are writing a project which requires very long time to complete, and all you have is 3 months. If we see that it is not feasible time-wise, then your project will not be accepted. Your project definitely will be rejected. And also it shows that you are not a serious researcher because you are saying something that you cannot deliver. So those are very, very important. So the next thing when you're writing your project, your problem statement, you have to precisely say what you mean. We are going to see that today. So you may say, well, I'm not lying, I'm saying what you mean, but in reality, if you don't specify, if you are not extremely clear in your statements, then you are actually not saying what you mean, not being absolutely honest. How this can happen? Let's say the other day I was talking about plant extracts for corrosion inhibition experiments. So if I'm going to say that I'm going to use plant extracts to investigate how they inhibit corrosion of mild steel, I'm actually not being completely honest. What is that? I'm not specifying, I'm not precisely saying which plant extracts I meant. Is it every single plant on the planet? Is it plants in Jamaica? Is it my backyard plants? Or is it just one plant, aloe vera, I decided to use? So I did not say it in absolute honesty and absolute integrity. So it's extremely important to precisely say what you mean, to be very specific what you are going to do. This other thing, people don't even notice. Like, I was looking at the assignments that were sent to me, and one of them had a bias. It says, state the problem in a way that reflects an open mind about the solution. This means that you should not have any bias in your problem statement. What means bias? Bias means you already have some pre-knowledge or pre-expectation from your research. I was telling the other group the other day, let's say I'm doing a research to look at or I'm doing a research to compare effectiveness of teaching students face-to-face in a classroom and teaching students online that we are doing now. So if I state my problem that the purpose of this research is to confirm that online teaching is more effective than face-to-face teaching, I am not reflecting the open mind. I am not saying that I'm comparing the two methods. I'm saying I'm going to show everyone that internet teaching is the better option, not an open mind. So what will happen down the road? If I know that teaching through the internet is the better of two, I feel like actually it has a lot of positive sides to it. But if this is the better of two, then what I will do, I will interview only students who are happy with teaching through the internet. I will collect only that data, leaving out everybody else who was extremely unhappy with all this internet business. And then at the end of the report, I will show everyone that, oh, you look, I was right. I knew it was the best one, and now I'm confirming it. Open mind was not used. If you do research and you are not open-minded, it's better to do something else. We should be open to disappointment. Maybe I'm extremely happy teaching you through internet, and my research may show that, well, 80% of students are unhappy. Hence, I should be ready, I should have open mind to do a proper research, to show the results, and then make some recommendations based on those results. Okay, the last thing here now, it says edit your work. Unfortunately, our students don't spend enough time editing their work. The result is what you are presenting is not such a good quality. Remember, we are not learning only for assignment 1, 2, or whatever. You are not doing this for me alone. This is for the rest of your life. When you are presenting a document, that document cannot be the first draft of what you are trying to do. First draft is never the good one. If you write a document and you go back to that document, let's say even 3 hours after, you can look at it with a different eyes, with an open mind, and you can see that, well, this is not good enough. I could have done a better job in terms of words you are using, in terms of grammar, spelling, in terms of relevancy, all of that. Sometimes it's a good idea to get your document to some of your friends or family or girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever is the person who is next to you. Just let them read it. And they can also be, hopefully they will be also open-minded. They will criticize you if there is a criticism there and so on, or praise you for the good work. Okay, so this is, once again, was the last slide from the last class. So we are moving to the next slide. And we are looking at now sub-problems. So what we are doing when the problem is ready. So we finish writing a problem, And we are moving to the next item in that chapter. Yes. So sub-problem. So what is sub-problem and how we divide the problem into sub-problem? Normally, every research problem can be broken down into sub-problems, meaning you can take that large problem and you can create, let's say, 2 or 3 units, 2 or 3 smaller problems which can be researched separately. So you are breaking your large problem into researchable problems. So each problem now must be clearly tied to the interpretation of the data, which means if you have a large problem and you are breaking into small pieces, each of those small pieces, you should be able, for each of that part of research, you should be able to collect the data and interpret the data. Now, the sub-problems must add up to the totality of the problem. So if I broke the major problem into, let's say, 2 or 3 pieces, if you complete researching each of those sub-problems, you have to then have a total problem solved, meaning like when you are writing your sub-problems, you should not have new problems introduced. I'm going to give you some examples of problems and sub-problems so you can see what I meant by you cannot introduce new problem while you are going for your sub-problems. And then sub-problems should be small in number. So how many sub-problems you should have? For assignment, 2 sub-problems is fine. For a real situation, sometimes we need a little more, but the maximum number can be 4. So somewhere between 2 to 4 sub-problems is quite acceptable. If you end up with 6 or 10 sub-problems, there could be different cases. We can look at that as well. That's too many. If there are real sub-problems, then like if you have 6 or 10 real sub-problems, you are looking at extremely large problem that you are trying to deal with. If you have 6 or 10 sub-problems, but they are not all real sub-problems, then you have to decide which ones to keep as a sub-problem, which ones can be removed. Again, I will give you a little example a little later, but once again, the number of sub-problems should be 2 to 4, not more than that. Okay, okay, I'm back. So when we finish, I will go for some example problem statements and sub-problems to clarify my point. So how to identify sub-problems? One of the ways is just to write your problem on the paper and try to break that problem into component pieces. The other approach could have been using brainstorming softwares. We never use brainstorming softwares for our work, so it's mostly pen and pencil so far. But in the library presentation, there are some ways of brainstorming, just finding or clarifying your problem. So when Ms. Price is making presentation, she will talk about that a little more. So further delineation of your problem, meaning like further clarifying your problem. What we do after we have written background to the problem, we already have a problem statement, and we broke down problem statement into sub-problem. Now, I want to go to a real problem right now, because talking about hypothesis, delimitations, defining terms, and state assumptions without having an example problem is a bit difficult. So let me go for an example problem, and we can come back to the continuation of the presentation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just type a problem statement here that we can use to break down into sub-problems, and then further we can add some other parts to that problem. With the previous class, I use a problem statement which was about gasoline and ethanol mixture, and the effect of that mixture on engine performance, internal combustion engine. But now I want to use biodiesel. I'm not sure if everyone knows about biodiesel. So biodiesel is a fuel that we can produce using fat or oil molecules. Normally, fat and oil in this case comes from plants. So let's say we are making a biodiesel using castor oil. So they do it very heavily in Brazil. They produce castor oil biodiesel. And we also know, so it comes from plants. It is a renewable fuel source. So let's say we have castor oil biodiesel, and we want to test it for, well, it is a biodiesel, diesel, hence it is used for diesel engines. And also we know that we have ethanol, which is also fuel, also renewable. So this morning I was thinking about biodiesel and ethanol mixture, but when I went to Google Scholar, apparently lots of other people thought about that too. So sometimes it is a bit interesting when you think you came up with a beautiful idea, somebody else did it long before you. So we shouldn't be thinking we are extremely bright. Okay, so what's the purpose of this research then? Let's say my problem, the purpose of this research is to do what? To analyze the effect of change in the ratio of biodiesel and ethanol mixture on the engine performance. the composition of NOx gases in exhaust fumes. Okay, so let's say this is my problem statement. Now, definitely before this problem statement, I should have some kind of background. So what the background should have in it? It should have that the diesel engines, let's say, are in use maybe for last 150 years. The fuel use is, let's say, diesel fraction of the crude oil. Diesel engines produce large amounts of NOx gases, and the fuel source is non-renewable. So all of that should have been there. After that, I should have said that the non-renewable sources are on decline. For some countries, there are serious economical issues, including Jamaica. Here, you could have bring some numbers, how much diesel we are burning per year. That would have helped. And then we would have said that, so the non-renewable fuels, they will finish within the next 100 years. We have economical issues, and NOx gases are responsible for smoke formation, and they are health hazard and all kind of stuff. So we have to bring a background to my problem. So after I said all that, I would have said I could have also said a few words about biodiesel. So the possible alternative to diesel fuel is a biodiesel, which can be produced using plants oil. Now there is lots of research on that. Actually, we here at UTech did a research on biodiesel as well. So any plant oil can be used for a biodiesel. Why we use castor oil? Because castor oil is not a food. People are making a lot of criticism, that there is a lot of criticism when you try to use, let's say, corn oil for fuel. They say corn oil is a food. Food cannot be used for fuel. That's kind of ethical issue. So let's say we have some castor oil, but biodiesel performance is not always as good as diesel performance. So what we do, we are trying to improve the biodiesel performance by adding another fuel, which also comes from plants. So we are adding ethanol to biodiesel. Actually, right before this, I was looking at articles. People are testing ethanol with biodiesel. People are testing methanol with that biodiesel. They are looking at different ratios of ethanol and biodiesel. It could be, let's say, 40-60, 30-70, and so on and so on. So they are testing to see which ratio actually performs better. So once again, what should be in my background before saying the purpose? Before saying the purpose, I have to talk about actual diesel. I have to talk about engine performance with diesel. Then I have to say what is needed to improve. So it is non-renewable. We want to improve the source, make it alternate source renewable. And also we want to improve the NOx gases in exhaust. I left out the letter N, in exhaust fumes. So we want to do two things. We want to know which ratio of the biodiesel and ethanol is performing better, and we want to know if we are changing the ratio of the biodiesel and ethanol, how that affects the NOx composition, NOx gases in exhaust fume. Those of you who are not chemistry or not much of a chemistry students, NOx stands for nitrogen oxides. So nitrogen oxides are produced in engine during the reactions inside the engine. Higher is the temperature inside the engine, more likely you will produce NOx gases. Some of the NOx gases can be reduced in exhaust using specific type of mufflers. Mufflers are very expensive. They have some catalysts in it. So research could have done on the muffler catalyst as well in order to reduce NOx, but I'm not doing that. I'm just looking how much I'm producing. Is it more, is it less than the regular diesel, which means I will eventually compare my results to the regular diesel. Why I'm going this far? Because I want to break now my research problem into possible sub-problems. So this is our research problem statement. Now I want to have my sub-problems. What would have been sub-problems? Sub-problems we can create when we are analyzing our research problem. If you go back and look at the research problem on the screen, it can be broken into two complete problem statements. One is analyzing the engine performance, how your, oh, that was not intended. So the first one, we are looking at our engine performance, like how the performance is affected by the ratio of biodiesel and ethanol. So I could have write, why this happened? My sub-problem disappear. Yeah, we are still in a process of learning. It did not disappear, it even changed the color. Okay, so problem one. To analyze, so what is my sub-problem is to analyze effect of biodiesel gosh man, my biodiesel sounds so bad here and I don't know how to correct it. Biodiesel, oh god. Yeah, can't correct it. Now I lost everything. 1 second. Somehow it opens new text boxes. Okay, let me see. Well, I'm going to start over. Okay. So what I'm analyzing? I'm analyzing to analyze effect of composition. I can correct my writing a little later. For now, I'm just breaking it into two sub-problems. Composition of biodiesel and ethanol mixture on engine performance. So this is one sub-problem. It can be done separately. You can just make your biodiesel and ethanol mixture at different ratios. And for each ratio, you can run your engine and you can look at your engine performance. You can create multiple ratios and you can create multiple runs and you can measure engine performance. Here, we have to specify really what is engine performance. That probably will be a little later. For now, I'm looking at my sub-problem too. Pay attention. We are also looking how changing composition of biodiesel and ethanol can affect the production of NOx gases. So to evaluate, that's my second sub-problem. To evaluate again, I can say the effect, or maybe I have to look for another word here to evaluate production of or formation of NOx gases at different composition of, let's say, biodiesel and ethanol mixture. Normally, this process of breaking your main problem into sub-problem takes longer than what I'm doing now, or because I'm creating my problem, I'm creating my sub-problems. Before doing this, I should have done a lot of reading. I should have found out what has been done already. And maybe what I'm doing is done already, meaning like I'm not making any new contribution. In that case, maybe there is no point of me doing this, but I'm doing this for example sake. So assumption is biodiesel and ethanol mixture for the engine performance was not done, or if it was done, I have to make it more specific, which biodiesel I'm working with, which engine I'm looking at, and maybe what I'm doing has not been done by other people. Now, once again, let us keep in mind what we have created. So we are looking at changing composition of the fuel and the engine performance as one sub-problem. And the next sub-problem, changing composition of the fuel and the generation, or you see here could have been better word generation, if I can correct it now. Yeah, generation would have been better word. Generation of NOx gases at different compositions of biodiesel and ethanol mixture. So once again, you can come back to this multiple times, like I'm just talking 2 minutes and I was able to do some little corrections to my sub-problems. Now, keeping this in mind, or those of you who are writing notes, probably you have this on writing, because I will come back to this to see what we can, what can go wrong with this kind of, I'm trying to make this smaller and it doesn't go. Okay, better. Oh God. Yeah, life is not easy. I had 2 text files open. Okay, it looks like now it looks more cleaner. Okay, we are just learning what is happening here. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Okay, somehow it went back to the... Okay, we are in right place now. Okay, so what happens after we already have our problem statement, our sub-problems? We have to clarify our research further, meaning, hold on. Yeah, we have to clarify our research further. We have to make sure that we ourselves and everybody else understands very clearly what is happening in your research. In order to make those clarifications, we are stating hypotheses. If the research involves quantitative research, meaning like you are dealing with numbers, then it's better to have hypotheses. In some other cases, people prefer to have research questions. So we already know what is hypothesis. Hypothesis was an educated guess. We come up with hypotheses based on our previous knowledge, previous education. So it is not really a guess per se. It should be based on some kind of theory. So normally, if you have 2 sub-problems, you should also have at least 2 hypotheses. Normally, each hypothesis is related to your sub-problem. So hypotheses are essential to experimental research. They actually give some kind of guidance, and they also show that some kind of data should be collected. What kind of hypothesis I could have for my research question, the one we just typed? So it says that you are changing the ratio ethanol to biodiesel, and you are looking at engine performance. My hypothesis could have been at higher percentage ratio of ethanol. So if I have more ethanol, less biodiesel. So at higher percentage ratio of ethanol, engine performance could be better. Meaning my expectation, my educated guess is to have a larger amount of ethanol than biodiesel. So at very high ratios, probably my engine should perform better. Now, hypothesis doesn't mean that at the end I'm going to get what I suggested, what I guessed. Hypothesis is just what I'm thinking, what I'm expecting based on what I read already. It may or may not be supported. At the end, my research may show that increasing the ethanol percentage actually reduces the engine performance. Can happen. So, however, when you suggest your hypothesis, so once you are writing your hypothesis, it should suggest how data should be analyzed and interpreted. So at least hypothesis should suggest that you have to change the ratio of these two, and you have to collect the data and analyze in order to get supporting or not supporting results. Hypotheses may originate in sub-problems. As I said, normally hypotheses are originating from your sub-problems. They are related to your sub-problems. Also, hypotheses provide a position from which the researcher may initiate an exploration of the problem. So if I think that at higher concentrations, engine will perform better, more than likely I will start from higher concentrations. And then if I see that it's working or not, then I will change the ratios. So these are checkpoints against which the test, the findings of the data are revealed. So the checkpoint is, I was thinking engine should perform better at higher concentrations. At the very end, when I finished the research, I put my data analysis, discussion, and so on. At the very end, I can actually say if my hypothesis was supported based on my research or not. So it's kind of checkpoint against which we are looking at our findings. So hypotheses for assignment 1 are not compulsory. It is up to you to put hypothesis. It is up to you to put hypothesis or not. Sub-problems, however, are compulsory. We want you to put your sub-problems. How the sub-problems can be stated. There is a little freedom in doing that. In some cases, our lecturers, also some of the researchers, writing the sub-problem the way I did just now. And in some cases, they're writing it as a research question. So they are writing it in a form of question. Is it good or bad? It is actually personal choice. I don't normally go for questions. However, if you choose to write a question, after sub-problem, nothing wrong with that. Okay, now after hypothesis, we have to delimit the research. So what is to delimit the research? Here you have to state what you are not going to do, or you are very clearly stating what you are going to do. Let me give you an example. I'm dealing with biodiesel and ethanol mixture. So in delimitations, I can write down which biodiesel I'm using. So in this experiment, only biodiesel from castor bean oil is used. In reality, there are many different castor beans. If I know the exact name of the castor bean, I can put that name there, plant name. Because like here in Jamaica, there are, I think, 2-3 different castor beans. So you can, if you are using a specific plant, then you are going to put the name of it. What that means, it means biodiesel, which is produced from corn oil, biodiesel, which is produced from algae, biodiesel, which is produced from waste vegetable oil. I don't know if you know, but you can take the KFC waste oil, like KFC or Burger King and so on. At the end of each day, they have gallons of oil, cooking oil, which is now waste. So you can take the cooking oil and you can make a biodiesel. And there are people in Jamaica who do that. There is a person who has a little company. So you take the waste vegetable oil and you make a biodiesel. So in my research, I'm dealing with castor bean oil biodiesel only. So that's a delimitation, which means if somebody comes and say, look, I'm using waste vegetable oil and it's not doing what you say, I can say correct, because my research was in castor. For your waste vegetable oil, new research is needed. So what the researcher will not do is to become involved in a data extraneous to the research problem. Meaning, so in my delimitation, I'm going to say only castor bean is tested. Only ethanol, so we are not looking at other alcohols because there are lots of other alcohols, but only ethanol and biodiesel mixture is used. Now the engine, we did not specify which engine we are going to use. Here we can say which engine is going to be tested. It could be, let's say, single cylinder or 4-cylinder engine is used. You can specify volume of engine, engine cylinders. If there is any other differences in terms of engine material, let's say aluminum alloy engine is being used, I'm not sure. However, like here in delimitation, you can specify exactly which engine is going to be tested. Also, exhaust gases from engine, there is number of them, like depending what you are testing. In my experiment, only nitrogen oxides are being tested. So I'm not looking at carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, all the other things. So in my delimitations, I'm kind of putting a frame around my the research. I'm saying this is exactly, I'm focusing, you are kind of putting the light on the research, and I saying like, this is my frame. I'm not collecting any other extraneous data. What is extraneous data? I could have tested for all the gases from exhaust. Those are like extra 6-7 gases. Unnecessary data, waste of time, equipment, and so on. So at the beginning, you are going to delimit and say, don't do that. I could have tested this in multiple different engines. Again, it's waste of time because I should have concentrated on one. I don't know, people could have asked me, instead of using just castor bean oil, use another 4 different ones. Again, extraneous, unnecessary data, which is increasing scope of your problem statement, which probably will not be finished within the 3 or 4 months that you are given. Okay, researcher must distinguish between what is and what is not relevant to the problem. So once again, what is not relevant to the problem? Let's say, what other gases are formed, it is not relevant. So I am not going to deal with the other gases for my problem. We actually don't grade you for delimitations in assignment 1. However, if you increase it, that will be welcomed. It means you thought about your research, you make it more specific, and make it more clear for whoever is reading your document to understand your research. Okay, people. Okay, so what else should happen to this problem statement in order for it to become a proper chapter 1, if it was a research project, or proper assignment 1, if I was a student and I was preparing my assignment 1. Remember, before I put the problem statement, I should have background, because some people, when they don't see background here, they assume it should not have been. So I should have background or introduction before my problem statement. So there should have been introduction here. I already spoke what should be in the introduction in last class, during today's class. So definitely there should be like one page printed material here, which will introduce the problem. Let's say we did that. We have the now, this is our problem statement. Remember, this is scientific problem. This is not what we normally call, oh, I have problem, I cannot get some water to drink. So it's not that kind of problem. This is a scientific problem statement. And I have my sub problems. This should have a heading. Actually, somehow I lost the heading when I was typing. So these are my sub problems. Problem statement and sub-problems taking a very large chunk of your assignment one. So if you don't have a proper problem statement, if you don't have good sub-problems, I don't remember the mark scheme now. I think there was 35% here and about 20% here. So this almost takes all your 55% of your assignment one, which is, you can see it is extremely important. Okay, how we can go wrong? Like how I can lose this 35%. There is something called pseudo sub-problems. Oh, let me put it in a different color. Don't know which color. Okay. Pseudo sub-problems. So you should not include pseudo sub-problems. Okay. So what is pseudo sub-problem? I was actually looking for other words for pseudo. So the words that are coming is what? Where is my words? Lost them. So the words that were coming in a dictionary, one of them was actually fake. Fake sub-problems. That means we think they are sub-problems, but they are not. So how we distinguish between scientific sub-problem, which will score your 35%, and pseudo sub-problem, which will actually take away the marks. Pseudo sub-problems very often are procedural issues. What is procedural issue? Let's say I have to find this biodiesel for my experiment. So I'm thinking where I can get a biodiesel for my experiment. That is not a sub-problem. So where to find biodiesel is a problem that you have to solve, but it is a procedural issue. Or which instrument to use for which instrument to use for NOx gas identification. Let's say I don't know which instruments are used. I have to find it out. Or how to measure engine performance. So these are actually legitimate questions that we should think about, we should solve them, but these are not scientific problem, sub-problems. These are procedural issues. That means these are pseudo sub-problems. Speaking everyday life words, it is fake sub-problems. If they are fake, you are going to lose all of your 35%. Also, you are not communicating to someone what is the sub-problem that you are going to solve. If you want to distinguish between pseudo sub-problem and the real ones, scientific ones, ask you a question. Is this sub-problem requiring data collection and data interpretation? If it doesn't require data collection, data interpretation, then you are not looking at a scientific problem. So you are more than likely looking at a pseudo sub-problem. So if it is procedural issue, if it is how to prepare your materials, where to find them, which equipment to use, how to use the equipment, all of that are procedural issues that you have to solve before you actually start collecting and analyzing the data. Before you are collecting the data on NOx gases and evaluating that data. So once again, make sure you don't include any of these pseudo sub-problems in your document. That will be detrimental to your final results. The next thing, sometimes people feel like it is not glamorous enough. So what they do, oh gosh. Okay, I got it back. So what they do, I want to remove, gosh, man. So somehow the text is being removed. So what they do, they are including more, yeah, the entire text box is erasing. Okay, I cannot erase this, so I will have to add on the next, let me see if I can cut and paste. Okay, so what else happens with sub-problems? Sometimes students are noticing that sub-problems are not looking so glamorous. So they want to make it looking more serious. They are adding more to their sub-problems. So let's say I go and add one more sub-problem here. I'm looking at to compare biodiesel and methanol mixture to biodiesel and ethanol mixture effect on, let's say, engine performance. Okay, what you can say about this sub-problem? Should I still keep it there or it's a bad idea?
I think it's a bad idea, miss.
Okay, it's a bad idea. Why is it bad idea? Why it shouldn't be there?
Because you're introducing another type of mixture when we're focused on biodiesel and ethanol.
Okay, so I'm introducing basically new variable. I'm introducing new mixture, which is a new research all by itself. And this was not in my original problem.
Yes.
So originally I did not set up for biodiesel and methanol mixture at all. I didn't even mention it in my original problem. And suddenly I'm expanding my research in my sub-problem, which means I still don't know what I'm doing. Definitely bad idea. The thing is, when you finish writing your sub-problems, you have to read them and go back to your original problem and see if you add up these two, are you getting this? This is like simple mathematics, yes? When you are adding your sub-problems, you have to get your problem. Right now, if I add these three sub-problems, I'm not getting this, which means this, even though by itself, this is an interesting research. This is what I came across when I was looking at Google Scholar. So people are looking at biodiesel methanol mixture versus biodiesel ethanol mixtures. Fine, but I did not set up for this. So if I notice that your problem statement says one thing and your sub-problems are saying other thing, you are again not getting your 35, which means you don't understand what is a research sub-problem. While you are doing your research, sometimes these things happen. Sometimes what you set up did not work. Let's say we are starting the research and we have no equipment to deal with NOx gases. Then we have to go in some other direction and we end up looking at methanol and biodiesel. In that case, we have to come back. We have to change our problem statement, change our sub-problems, get rid of this if it did not work, like we just don't have equipment to do the measurements. Hence, the entire thing should be changed. But at the beginning, when you are presenting it, or at any point when you are presenting, your sub-problems should match your problems. I have been in presentations when people are presenting their master's degree and so on, and then at the end of the presentations, people start asking, go back to your problem statement, explain how what you are presenting is connecting to what you were stating at the beginning. In reality, the man or the woman made some changes while they were going along, but they did not go back and change their problem statement to make it one whole. For you guys now, most of you are doing assignment one. For me, you are probably not going to do research right now, but later on, if you are doing research, your major part of the work is your problem statement and your correct sub-problems. If your problem is not properly defined, meaning what is the aim of your work, then how you are going to do your work? Sometimes, like, I think there are some sayings people say, if you don't know where you are going, how you know you have reached there? So if you don't have that goal, that plan, that statement, how do you know you have reached, you have finished, you have done your research already? So you are still fuzzy about it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you some examples, example words that you should be using in your problem statement and sub-problems. Meaning, like, if you pay attention, I have few action words here. I have analyze, I have, yeah, here I have it. So your research problem statement, also your sub-problems can have certain action verbs. Those verbs are actually suggesting collection of the data and analysis of the data. So some work should be done on your data. What kind of verbs that we can use for our research? Like, so verbs to use in problem statement, also in sub-problems. There are lots of them, but you can actually Google which words are good to use in problem statement and sub-problem. So definitely you can use analyze. It could be deduce. Could be differentiate. Could be interpret. Could be compare, contrast. The verbs that you should not be using. Poor verbs. Could be something like understand. The word understand is one of the very difficult verbs to measure. Like, how do you know you understand completely how this engine performance is affected? We can't. Your aim cannot be to understand effect of the ratio of the fuels on your engine performance, because understand is a very wide thing and it cannot be measured. How much you understand, 50%, 80%, how you measure that? The word know is the same thing.
Excuse me, miss.
Yes.
What about identify? Where would that fall?
What do you want to identify?
Well,
differences.
yeah, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, it would come back down. Okay.
We can come back to it. You have to be, it could be identify, but then identify, does it involve measuring and analysis or collecting data and analysis?
I guess it would come back down to comparing again. So I guess comparing is the...
Be very careful, like analyze what you are saying. So you go back to your thing. Let's say I want to identify what are the, let's say, motivation for students to do this research. So is it identifying motivation or I'm investigating? When you are identifying, you are actually investigating.
Okay.
Because like, if I want to know what is motivating to identify, let's say, interesting topics to students. So what I have to do, I have to analyze all the topics which are given to you and identify the one that is interesting to you. I think identify involves some kind of analysis. You have to be careful when you are defining the thing. Understand, know, the word explore. Let's say explore. What means explore? Explore can be a forever process. All your life you can explore. Some people choose a research topic and they explore that topic for the rest of their life. which means explore doesn't really show the end of it. That process goes on and on and on. Same thing is examine. Even though like I would have, this is not my list really I'm going through. I'm looking at some list I have right here. This word I would have kind of give a chance. Because when you are examining, it could be forever process, but it could be also a finite process. You examine, you finish, you collect the data. So let us give a chance to this word. Examine is a good word. Okay, so once again, when you are writing your research problem statement, also sub-problems, use action verbs which will require collection and interpretation of a data. If they don't, then don't use it. Look here, all of these: analyze, deduce, differentiate, interpret, compare, contrast, and so on. All of them will require for you to have some data and work with it. So if you are not going to so-called struggle with the data, maybe that's not a problem statement to work with. Okay, so what do I want to do now? I want to give you some examples from internet. I found a beautiful little document giving that. Zoom record. Okay, so I want you to look at these statements, research question statements. These are actually research questions. These are not sub-problems. But I want you to see the difference. Now, what kind of difference we are seeing here? We are looking at the number one. It says, what effect does social media have on people's mind? Here it is saying that writing this kind of research question is not good. What is not good about this? Look here what it says. What effect does social media have on people's minds? Your problem statement could have been analyze the effect of social media on people's mind. Why is it a bad idea? Because it is too wide. When we say social media, what we mean? When we say people mind, what we mean? Remember, I told you when you're writing your problem statement, you have to clearly say what you meant, because if it is not clearly stated, then it is a bad research, hence you don't get the mark, you don't get the research go ahead. Remember, all these research proposals should be accepted in order for you to get a permission for the instrument, for the material, for the money. So you can start your, some research, they are very expensive, which means your university or your employer will not give you the money unless they know clearly what you are doing. Now look what these people changed this bad proposal statement into better one. So we are looking at the better one now. It says, what effect does daily use of Twitter? Well, I'm not sure if you guys are using Twitter. I definitely not. It's probably a bit old thing. So daily use of Twitter, you could have called it TikTok, you could have called it Facebook or some other Instagram social media. So daily use of this have on an attention span, because people mind of under 16s. So we are not talking about social media in generally, we are talking about daily use of Twitter, only one of them. And then we are not talking about people, we are talking about under 16s. Here we could have go even more specific. We could have say on children, let's say 13 to 16-year-old, we could have even specified saying females or males. 13 or 16-year-old. So here, this people mind needs to be specified. Actually, we should have also specified in which country. Daily use of Twitter on the attention span of females 13 to 16 years old in Jamaica. And then again, even if we say in Jamaica, we cannot do that. You cannot go and analyze attention span of every single female 13 to 16-year-old in Jamaica. Hence, you probably have to narrow it down even more, saying like females 13 to 16-year-old in, let's say, traditional high schools in Kingston. This now reduces to drastically, the number is being reduced and it is clarified. So we are not talking about every single 13 to 16-year-old. These are traditional high schools. We have few of them in Kingston, and females only. We don't touch the boys. So if you are presenting this, the top one, as your research problem, you get 0. Because the way it is written, it cannot be researched. It is not doable. What effect does social media have on people's mind? You can do this research until you die and you won't finish. The other one, however, once it is narrowed down, because you have to find the girls 13 to 16-year-old who daily uses the Twitter, and then you measure their attention span. Now, here I have to introduce one more thing. There are some ethical issues that you have to address when you are doing your research. Actually, this research, if somebody was doing the research involving humans, would have some, normally research that involves humans and animals may have some, and some kind of sensitive data as well. So animals, humans, sensitive data, and so on. You have to have a permission of our ethics committee. Because I may design a research for these girls, 13 to 16-year-old, but my ethics committee, our university has ethics committee as well, because for this research, you have to create a questionnaire and so on. Ethics committee has to look at your questionnaire and see how ethical are your questions. If they do not accept, they will not allow your research to move ahead. Actually, next class probably will talk about ethical issues. All of you have to submit document to ethics committee in order to have your proposal moving forward. So we have to look at if there are any ethical issues in your research. Normally we don't, because we don't really do human or animal trials. However, some computer people, they deal with data, and sometimes they actually deal with some questionnaires. In that case, yes, it could be some serious issues. Okay, so we understood why the first one is not researchable, while the second one, after further delineation, like say 13 to 16, female, Kingston, technical high school, or traditional high school, and so on, becomes more clear. Same thing here, look at the second one. It says, well, remember this is not written for us Jamaicans, but the questions are really good, I love them. It says, why is there a housing crisis in Netherlands? We could have asked the same question here. Why is there a housing crisis in Kingston? Again, for a question like this, or you can say, well, we are going to investigate or evaluate housing trust issues in Kingston. Like, okay, we wrote a problem statement. Too bad. There are too many factors which can contribute to that housing crisis. So you have to specify which one of those factors you are going to research. So these people know, this one in red, no, cannot be researched, nobody will give you money, it is not focused enough. Now, how we focus it? These people are looking at what impact have university internationalization policies had on the availability and affordability of housing in Netherlands. Those of you who were renting somewhere around Papin area, you know that it is very difficult because in Papin area, we have 2 universities, we have the hospital. So what happens, everyone wants to be near to their workplace or school. Hence, there is a problem, housing problem in Papin area. So you could have looked what are the factors affecting housing availability in a Papin area, because you don't have similar problem, let's say in some other areas, but the Papin, Mona, you know that to find an apartment, to find room in those areas is very difficult. So these people are saying, okay, what impact has internationalization policies on availability and affordability of housing in Netherlands? Can you see that there is a problem here? What other problem is here? How we have to make it more specific? People?
Miss the introduction of the availability and affordability. They should probably stick to one.
Yes and no, because you can have 2 sub problems here. You can look at availability and you can look at affordability. I think Netherlands is a problem. It's too wide. Netherlands is a big country, so this person is going to go everywhere in Netherlands and look at these university internalization processes and the housing. Not really. So maybe they have to be more specific and say, well, in Amsterdam maybe, or maybe in a, remember like first I said Kingston and I make it Papin. Because if I'm looking at location of the universities and availability of housing around those universities, so like right now, I'm sure anyone who wants to rent in Papin area will find 15 rooms for himself, because there are no UTech students, there are no UTech staff, which means they are not going to rent in that area. UWI, no staff and students, and hospital staff who is renting probably is also reduced because I think all not essential workers are not working. Hence, you can see that if I'm looking at certain policies, then the areas should be specified as well. So to make your research problem clear, focused, you have to use specific terms. So it's not why is there a housing crisis, it is availability and affordability. Maybe houses are available, but they are not affordable. That's where the crisis comes. Also, where exactly we are talking about. Also, which factor we are looking at. We are looking at only one factor, internationalization policies. So these people probably thinking that once the universities are international, then lots of other people are coming to those areas from abroad. Here in Jamaica, we don't have that kind of problem. We have very few international students, but like if 50% of your university admission was internationals, then that 50%, 4,000 people would have tried to rent around the university. that would definitely create a problem with both availability and affordability, because people who can manage, they would have they would have paid more, hence that would have run the price of the housing. So once again, you have to understand, when you finish writing your document, look back and see, am I specific enough? Is this clear? Like what is in my head, is it clearly on the paper? If it is not, then I have to clarify further. Normally, your first writing is not very clear because you have all the ideas in your head, but it's not always on the paper. So we can't get in your head, we need the paper. Okay, we can look at some others, but this one's, okay, let us look at this homelessness. Has there been an increase in homelessness in San Francisco in the past 10 years? I want somebody to tell me why this is a bad problem statement. Or you could have said, just explain what you would have, why is this not a good problem statement?
Miss, it seems kind of biased. It comes off as being biased. Has there been an increase in homelessness? I think it would be better if they ask, if there an investigation or in an analysis of the homelessness rate in San Francisco. A comparative analysis would be a better phrasing of it.
Okay, so what we are comparing?
Comparing the homeless rate in 2020 and the homeless rate in 2010, or the homeless rate over the period 2010 to 2020.
Okay, if I compare, what I will do, let's say my comparison may say it increases or it decreases. Should I look at some other things?
Probably the reason behind it, give more and specific causes of it, or in a specific area, probably.
Okay, remember homeless rates, specifically in United States. Here in Jamaica, we have more uniform population. But in United States, homeless could be certain, let's say you have Hispanics, you have whites, blacks, and others. So you can look, because in some groups you have more than the others. And then there are different reasons for becoming homeless, which means, like, if I just talk general homeless, that is a very big a project. I can divide it males or females, homeless rates, or children. I can divide it by groups, let's say Hispanics, blacks, whites. I can divide it homeless people who are by choice, and people, because there are people who are homeless by choice, and there are people who are there because of some economical and social and some other issues, educational, I'm not sure. We have American homeless, they're war veterans, like large group of war veterans are homeless people, which have PTSD. I was reading recently, the person cannot stay inside the house because he gets PT in a close area, so he chooses to be homeless. Meaning, what I'm trying to say, has there been an increase in homelessness in San Francisco? Actually, this thing answer would have been yes or no. Yes or no is not a research. Remember, we spoke about this. Hence, the way it is stated is not a research whatsoever. Now, we are looking at the one with the green tick, meaning like this one is better. How have economic, political, and social factors affected patterns, meaning now we don't say increase, we are looking at the patterns of homelessness in San Francisco over the past 10 years. So we caught the increase, which I didn't get your name. You were thinking that saying increase, it's kind of biased. I'm not really sure, but like the word increase probably was not good word. So they look at the patterns, because some days, maybe some years increasing, some years decreasing, and so on. So what we are doing, we are looking at economic, political, and social factors, which means sub-problems would have been how economic factors affecting homeless, patterns of homelessness. So how economic factors affecting patterns of homelessness, one sub-problem. How political factors affecting homelessness, second sub-problem. How social factors affecting homelessness, that's the third sub-problem. So can you see that your big problem here could have been easily break into three big sub-problems? How economic factors, how political factors, and how social factors affecting homelessness. Three researchable sub-problems which can be independently from each other. And then when you finish those three, you add that together, you solve one big problem. So really and truly, even the way it is written now, it's still quite complex, because as I say, we could have break this down further. Let's say homelessness for males, for females. You could have put some age category, let's say 16 to 30-year-old, and so on, because the way it is still written, I wouldn't accept it as a very good one. It needs more focus. Could have been age, could have been by groups, by males and females, by gender. I'm not really sure like what else is contributing to this. Could be economical, political, social, or we could have just removed the political, keep economical, social. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that you are seeing how your problem statement can be incorrect, can be not focused. Even here, look here, the next one. What factors led to women gaining the right to vote in UK in 1918? Again, here now it says it's not very original, meaning also maybe it is multiple factors. You can look at 1918, there was a war, there was a lot of females who had to work, and they were involved in economy. There is a rise of feminism. There is some other factors. Now, it has been extensively researched by historians, and it will be very difficult to contribute new knowledge. Now, when you do research, you have to contribute new knowledge. If what you are doing is done already, you shouldn't go for it. Hence, what these people do, they did not look at UK and females gaining right. They are looking at a very specific part. How did Irish women perceive and relate to the British women's suffrage movement? So you are changing the problem, you are narrowing down. This time now you are looking how Irish women contributed or did not, because it says relate to the British woman. So this is kind of unexplored aspect of a topic. So you have to find a part of a topic that nobody touched yet, make it very specific, very focused, and don't think that you're kind of solving a small problem. It's fine to solve the small problem, because when you put together many small problems, you end up with a solving big one. Okay. Okay, so what you are seeing here, similar to what I was discussing, this group is in performance and emission characteristics of the engine, but they are comparing biodiesel ethanol, biodiesel methanol, and neat biodiesel. That means biodiesel with no ethanol or methanol. Performance, as well as baseline fuel. Baseline fuel would have been just a diesel that you are buying in a gas station. So this is an abstract. So abstract also gives you the results of the experiment. Remember, you don't write the results, you haven't done anything. So these people found that overall alcohol blends as compared to diesel reduce nitrogen oxide. This is not NO, it is NOx, should have been, emissions, while carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon emissions increases. Well, you are fixing one thing, you are destroying the other one. So NOx is less, but carbon monoxide is high. And then look here, at below 70% loads, which means they also look at the percentage loads. It is also shown that the ethanol blend is more effective than the methanol one for emission reduction and overall engine performance. So what I learned that methanol is not doing the job, which means I will not use methanol in my experiments. I also learned that the nitrogen monoxide emissions are decreasing, carbon monoxide increasing. Carbon monoxide is a dangerous chemical. We should not be allowing this to increase, which means then when I'm designing my experiment, maybe I will not look at nitrogen monoxide, I will look at carbon monoxide. This one I already know is reducing. So when I read this, I can come up with my own research design. I can drop the methanol. I can go for ethanol in different ratios. And I can drop the nitrogen monoxide. I can look at carbon monoxide. Also, I can choose to use the same engine they did, or I can use some other engine, which could be similar or completely different from this one. So, of course, it is very important to be able to read the entire document. In this case, I think entire document is not available, but let me see, it is not available, yeah? Document is not available, but as I said, look here, it says purchase. As I said, we are going to get Miss Price to make a presentation, and when she does, people, can you mute you? Let me see if I can do that myself. Yeah, I can. Okay, so Miss Price, when she makes her presentation, she also will help us to deal with articles which require a purchase, because like if I want this full article, I have to buy it, and it normally says Oh no, it wants an email and so on. So if you are buying, it normally like somewhere between 35 to 55 US dollars. Now it won't allow me to go away. Okay. Also, I'm finding new features in, gosh, man. Okay, 1 second. I'm finding new features in Google Scholar. You can choose by database instead of just going all out. Okay, so let me, here, I got it. Okay. Yes, for assignment 1, title page should be APA format. Sixth edition. So you can just Google APA format title page and you are getting a title page. Now it looks quite simple. Don't do anything different than the title page requires. It requires running head, put the running head. If you don't know what is running head, find it out. It requires a topic. Topic is not your problem statement. So if my problem statement was that ethanol biodiesel mixture and engine performance, then I have to write specific topic for that. So it could have been the relationship maybe of engine performance and the formation of exhaust gases and the changing composition of biodiesel ethanol mixture. So that's not the topic. That's not a problem statement. That's the topic. Topic in a title page can go up to 10 words. I think all of that is specified by APA format title page. Take some time, write your title page in APA format. Now, once again, this is not for me alone. At the more professional level, your title page should not have all those pictures, all those different fonts, frames. Even though all of that looks beautiful, but we are not doing interior design. We are doing engineering research proposal. So there are requirements for it. The boring it is, the better. So don't make it very beautiful with pictures and all the other things that you can do. Once again, title page, I think it's 5% of your document. Mark scheme is in your syllabus. You can look there. So you don't want to lose this 5%. This is kind of giveaway. Title page should have your name, your ID number, preferably which engineering discipline you are coming from, electrical, mechanical, and so on. That is helpful as well. Then you should have your introduction or background. That's the next page. So you can call it introduction or background, whatever you like better. When we do a research document, sometimes we write introduction for each part of it. So both introduction and background will be accepted. What should be here? Definitely you should have some APA in-text citations, because this is a mini lit review. You have to read the literature in order to have some idea about your research. So definitely we need some kind of APA in-text citations. If you don't know how to do APA in-text citations, again, Google it, learn it. It is very important because your citations, if they are not written the way they're supposed, I take off marks. And then your document looks sloppy. How many citations? 2 to 5 will be good. After this should be your research problem statement. Remember?
Excuse me, Miss.
Yes.
So the introduction and the problem statement are supposed to be all, like one thing?
It could be.
Or do you separate it, like say introduction,
Yes.
and then you have research?
I personally like when they are separated. However, if you are writing an introduction and it is kind of flows very smoothly into saying the aim of this research is, if you start that last paragraph saying the aim of this research is, I understand that this is what you are talking about. So I'm not going to penalize you if you write your proper introduction and then your research problem, fine. I will grade it separately. Or you put them in under separate heading. Heading introduction, you talk all of that, and then heading research problem, the aim of this research is. Whichever you like better, that's kind of your choice. Also, as I was saying, Dr. Brownwell, she likes when the entire thing flows as one piece of document. I like when there are two separate things, but I never penalize my students for that. That's a personal preference. So there is a mark for your introduction and there is a mark for your research problem statement. Then after that, it will be your sub-problems. How many sub-problems? 2 to 3, not more than that. Remember, 2 to 3 sub-problems. If you are putting too many, more than likely you are dealing with those fake sub-problems, pseudo sub-problems. Next, after sub-problems could have been not compulsory because that's not graded. I'm going to put them in a different color, let's say blue. Could be hypothesis. Or could have been research questions if you feel like putting them as questions. Hypothesis. Remember, hypothesis should be related to your sub-problems. After this is the delimitations. That means things that you are not going to research. I don't think the delimitations are graded. After delimitations, in a presentation actually that kind of did not come, but it is very important. Here you have to put key definitions. What is key definitions? Let's say I use the term biodiesel. Now, there is a dictionary definition for biodiesel. Sometimes students put a dictionary definition because like person who is reading your document may or may not exactly know what is biodiesel. They know what is diesel, but they don't know what is biodiesel. So you can put dictionary definition and then you can say, because dictionary definition probably says biodiesel is fuel made of plant oil, or it doesn't even have to be plant oil, could be any oil. So it is produced from oil by some chemical processes. So the starting material is a oil. So then in our research, biodiesel was only the fuel from castor oil. So if the term should be further described, definitely should be here, which means your reader should not mix or should not expect any biodiesel, should expect only biodiesel from castor bean oil. So in this research, biodiesel means biodiesel from castor bean oil. So I'm not going to repeat that every time, I already said it. The terms like electrical energy, everybody knows, there is no need to put any there. But then if I'm putting specific type of magnet, like I'm using some very special word there, then those words need definitions. So once again, which words you are going to define? The words which are used in your problem statement and sub-problems. So if you use any special words in your problem statement, in your sub-problem, you use term biodiesel, you use term type of magnet, you use some very specific terminology that you think people will misunderstand, people may misinterpret, or everyone has their own interpretation of it, then you have to explain those terms. Normally, like about 3-4 terms here will be good. We don't expect too many. If the definition is taken from some kind of dictionary, sometimes we have to do that, then you have to put a citation too, because it is not your definition, it's not your explanation, it's coming from dictionary. So make sure that anything that comes from outside source is cited. So key definitions, this is graded as well. What else you have to put? You have to put if there is any assumptions that you are making. Assumptions, not graded. And the other graded part of the research, this assignment 1, is your significance. So significance comes as a separate heading in this document. Normally it is 1 or 2 paragraph writing. So what should I put under significance of the research? Normally when you are making a research proposal, you have to convince someone that what you are doing is worthy. So it has some kind of significance. So to who it is significant? Research can be significant to the society. Let's say your finding may be used to make some changes in a society. Let's say I was looking how the attention span of the students is changing by social media usage. So if I find that it is very detrimentally affects the attention span, then the society has to make some changes. Don't allow the children to use it, or limit it, or I don't know, some countries are not allowing certain social media use altogether. China is one of those. I don't know if it is good or bad, but the point is what you are researching may be significant to different aspects of our life. So what it can be significant for, let me see if I can make space here. I can't. Okay, so it could be society. It could be environment. Let's say I did my research and I found out that certain fuel blends are less environmentally friendly than the others, which means when I finish my research and implement it, it will be good for environment. It could be good for economy. or it could be good for all three. So when you are doing research, you have to think, who is going to benefit from the results of my research? And this should be clearly stated in the significance part. Let's say I can say that emissions of carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides, what kind of damage it does to the environment here. Even though I spoke about that here already. Remember, I should have said that emissions of the carbon monoxide and nitrogen monoxide are really bad. I spoke about that here. I can come back and reinforce here that since these emissions are so detrimental to human health, to let's say air quality, on and on and on. So the results of my research can significantly affect the quality or air quality or stuff like that. Economy, maybe when I finish my research and I find out that biodiesel ethanol mixture performs as good as regular diesel, then I can make that biodiesel here in Jamaica instead of spending my money and buying it from, I don't know, United Arab Emirates. So we normally buy it from Venezuela though. So my economy, here I can say that Jamaica spends, I don't know how many $1 million per year for obtaining diesel. Hence, the results of the experiment can reduce the expenditure. So economically, we are doing a good thing. Or maybe whatever I'm using, improving the engine performance or makes the engine life longer, I'm not sure. So in that case, the company who is running those engines will be very interested in your results. So I believe you understand what I'm trying to say. So significance of your research is very important. Is graded. And at the very end of this document, you have to include your references. I run out of space, so I'm going to write it here. That's the last part of your document, references. Now, there's a difference between what is called reference and bibliography. Bibliography is everything you read about this topic. Reference is the material that you use directly to write this document. Let's say you wrote some in-text citations here, you wrote some definitions here, citations were used. That means only the documents that you used for your in-text citations should be here. Don't write some references just to make it beautiful. Let's say you have 15 references here and only 2 in-text citations, then I'm going to take off your mark. It means you have either not cited the material you use, or you're just fluffing up the document for me just to be very impressed, and I'm not. For your information, I'm reading all your documents. I don't flip the pages. Hence, if there is a mismatch between your in-text and the reference, the mark gone. I think it's about 10%, all of it gone. References should be written in APA format, 6th edition. If you are using our library online edition, apparently it can do the referencing for you nicely in APA format, which means you don't even need to arrange the information in APA, it does it for you. So there are lots of softwares who do it for you, you just have to use it. Okay guys, I'm going to stop here. So remember, your deadline is now not next week, but after next week. Next week, we are going to have a librarian, Miss Price, to make a presentation for you, how effectively use the library. you keep reading, because even though it looks so many things, so let us number them to see how many things are here. So we have title page, we have introduction, research problem, sub problems. I'm numbering the graded parts, key definitions,
Excuse me.
significance, sure. On reference list. Go ahead. What's the question?
Okay, I was just trying to be sure this the hypothesis and the
Delimitations.
limitations, they are a part of the sub problems, right?
Not really.
Not
no.
really. So how
They
do
are
you introduce them?
standing alone. You
No.
can just put a heading hypothesis and write it down underneath.
Okay. And this the hypothesis is for each of the sub problems.
Yes. Yes, because like if I'm saying that I'm changing the composition of the fuel and the ethanol, and I'm looking at engine performance, then I can say that at higher ethanol the composition, or at higher ethanol ratio, ethanol to biodiesel ratio, the engine performance will be improved. Will be improved is a hypothesis in my head, because I read already people are saying that ethanol was doing better job. So I'm thinking that if I increase the ethanol percentage, I'm getting a better result.
And
it's a hypothesis. It may not be supported at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, so the ones in blue, once again, hypotheses, delimitations, assumptions, you can leave them out. Normally, if you are writing a research project like that you are going to present in May, it's a research, not design. Then this entire thing becomes your chapter 1. This entire assignment 1 would have been your chapter 1 in your major project report.
Okay.
Somebody is asking me if there is a group looking for extra member, but what happens, I did not put you in groups. I don't really know your group locations. So what I would have suggested, which probably is the best thing for you to do, let me stop the recording.